Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on the MIgardener channel. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to build raised beds for cheap. Now a lot of you are probably wondering, well, didn't you already do a video on that? Well, yeah, we did 4 years ago. And so 3 cameras ago and like really bad quality ago, before HD cameras were able to be purchased at a pretty economical price, we did a video like that. But this is going to be a redo. Same premise, that we are going to be building raised beds for a very inexpensive cost. The whole project cost us about $30. You got screws and lumber, 30 bucks. You really can't go wrong. So this is going to be an economical raised bed that's going to get you a return on your investment quicker, and it's also going to serve its purpose, which is to grow vegetables. You don't need a rocket science project to grow vegetables. They will grow in just about anything, and so the cheaper you can do it, the more you can make, and the more you can make on your investment. So I hope you all are going to enjoy. We're going to go through the materials first, and there's not that many because we're not overcomplicating it. There are some additional things you can add if you want to add to your beds, but I find it just adds on extra cost, and if you do it this way, you're going to have no problem whatsoever. So the first thing is that the soil we're working on, the native soil, basically the yard that we're building on, the soil isn't horrible. So if your soil is horrible, if it's really heavy clay and you have a hard time even growing grass, chances are you're going to have a hard time growing vegetables in the native soil as well, which might be why you're building raised beds. So since we don't really have a problem with the native soil, but we just really like the look of raised beds and we can get a little extra depth, we're going to grow partially with the native soil and partially with the raised beds. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to get a shallower raised bed, which can save us some money. So for the lumber, we've actually gone with an untreated yellow pine, this regular yellow pine here. It's just your basic construction grade stuff. But we went with a 2-inch by 10-inch by 8 foot long, and that's going to give us 8 foot long beds, which is perfectly adequate. But then for those are for the side walls. Then for the front and back of the bed, we decided to go with 3 feet. So it's going to be 3 feet by 8 feet. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to reach through the beds, and it's going to also allow us enough space to really grow a lot of food in that given space. Because any wider, and I find you have a hard time reaching across to weed or to harvest anything, and you don't want to be stepping in the beds because then that defeats the purpose of the raised bed. So the 3 feet is going to be perfect, and that's going to be 24 square feet. The old beds we had at the old house were 30 square feet, so it's not going to be a whole lot different. But we also went with 12 inches tall at the old house, and that's because the soil was pretty hard to dig in, and so we went with the 12 inches so we could have 2 inches additional of actual like bagged soil basically. But since we're using some of the native soil, we went with 10 inches, and that's also going to save you some money because there's a huge price jump from a 2x12 down to a 2x10. So you're going to save quite a bit of money doing that if you can. Now, some additional things to note. You can save a ton of money by doing 3 feet by 8 feet because the most economical way to do that is to get a basically 2 by 10 by 12 foot piece. And so you're going to cut that into 3 foot sections. And when you cut it into 3 foot sections, 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So you're going to get 4 pieces from that one board. And that's basically going to build you 2 beds. So since we're building 2 beds, this one and this one, we're actually able to save a lot of money by not having any wasted wood and not to have to buy an extra size up or buy 2 boards of a smaller size. And then you have deck screws. You want to go with a nice sturdy galvanized deck screw. These are 3 inches. They are also a coated deck screw, so they're not going to rust. They're also going to hold up. They're not going to pop out of the wood. And so that's going to kind of eliminate the bowing. People are always worried about the beds popping apart or breaking down, and you really don't have to worry about them breaking apart when you use a nice long deck screw. The next thing you have to not worry about is them breaking down. They will break down over time. Any beds will break down, and you could go with a cedar, but that costs so much money, it's ridiculous. These beds right here will last between 5 and 6 years. I guarantee it. because the beds at our old house, they were 5 years. They were starting to kind of break down in a few areas, but you could tell they were definitely still functional. And that's really all it has to do. It has to hold soil, for heaven's sakes. So as long as it's holding soil, you're fine. And I found that they could probably get 2 or 3 more years even out of it, because they were definitely holding up just fine. So for all the people saying you need to go with like a treated wood, I would never recommend that because you're growing vegetables in it. For all the people saying you need to dig it down deep in the soil and keep it from bowing out, they don't bow. There's a whole lot of construction that's going to keep the soil in, and you're not going to have a problem with that either. So this is fine. Trust me, you don't need to make it a rocket science project to grow vegetables. The next thing is if you want to, you can add the 2x2 posts in the corners if you want to secure it down a little bit better. I find with a bed that's 3x8, you have enough weight that it's never going to move around. It's not going to shift, it's not going to slide, and so you're not going to have a problem with that. Now, if you are going with something like a 4x4, like a traditional square foot garden, I would possibly consider putting in those posts because it is a little bit lighter, and even the soil in the center of the bed isn't enough weight to keep it from shifting. So in my experience, I would probably do that if I was doing a square foot bed. But if you're doing these, you're going to be just fine. So let's get to construction here. Let's build these, and then we can start filling it. Really quick, really simple. Now, a lot of people asked me which is better to go on the inside or the outside. So you have the side wall here, and is it better to go on the outside of your front board or on the inside? And personally, I like to go on the outside because you're not losing any square footage that way. Because this board right here is 3 feet, and so if you put a 2 inches here and 2 inches on the other side, you've already eliminated 4 inches off the bed. And when you're talking about square footage, that's quite a bit of square footage lost. We're talking the entire bed. So I like to put it on the outside so I can get all the growing space out of these beds as I can. And it really doesn't harm the structural integrity of this corner at all by putting it on the outside. I'm telling you what, this is the best drill we've ever had. I'm telling you what, not a sponsor, but go get this drill. It makes such light work of everything. It is kind of like a semi-impact drill, I guess. I don't really know what you'd consider it, but it's a high quality drill, and it makes short work of these jobs here. Just get it started, and you don't have to worry at all about the bit stripping or anything. It just makes that noise because it kind of rotates back and forth and drives the screw right in. Not a problem. All right, we're gonna put a 4th in, and then we're gonna go finish up the rest of the sides there. Definitely really good construction. Edges are nice and flush. All that is really properly built. So now all we're going to do is we're going to fill it up with some of this beautiful, beautiful compost here, and then we're going to be finished. I find that typically when you put 8 inches of compost down, there's no weeds that come up, at least here in our region, because the grass and stuff, it's not a super, it's not a super hardy grass. So as soon as you put any mulching whatsoever on, it typically kills it off. Now, if it was any shallower, if it was like an 8-inch bed or even a 6-inch bed, I would highly recommend using cardboard sheet mulching or newspaper mulching. I don't think we're gonna have a problem whatsoever with this much mulch, because in my experience, anytime you put more than 8 inches down, there's not enough strength in this stuff to come up. However, it is a good idea to do so. So in your practice, just do it, and that way it'll make less weeding for you in the long run. So there you go, cheap, easy to do, it serves its purpose, and it's gonna get the job done just fine. So hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you are building raised beds for cheap. Hopefully you learned something new, and hopefully you're growing bigger going home. So that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you click that like button, that always helps. Click that subscribe button, always helps, and I'll talk to you all later. See ya, bye.